My name is Brenna Miller, and I'm 38 years old, living here in the beautiful mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. I work as a landscape designer, spending my days surrounded by plants, dirt, and the fresh air. I love making things grow, taking a patch of unloved earth and turning it into something vibrant and alive. It's a job that lets me be creative and stay close to nature, which I really need. I've always been someone who values honesty and authenticity, finding joy in simple pleasures like a good cup of coffee on my porch or a quiet hike in the woods. I'm pretty observant, maybe a bit sarcastic when I'm comfortable, but deep down, I've always yearned for a closer bond with my family, especially now that our parents are gone. It's just well complicated. The problem, or rather, the thorn in my side that has been festering for years, is my older sister, Fiona. She lives across the ocean in Scotland now, a successful entrepreneur by all accounts, but she still somehow manages to cast a long shadow all the way to North Carolina. 5 years ago, Fiona and I had a spectacular falling out over something as silly as an old vintage purse that belonged to our mother. It was a minor thing, really. I had accidentally scuffed it, but Fiona blew it completely out of proportion. In hindsight, I realize it wasn't about the purse at all. It was just the excuse she needed to finally cut me out, to solidify her role as the perfect, responsible daughter compared to me, the so-called black sheep of the family. Since then, we haven't spoken a single word. She organizes these elaborate family Christmases every year at fancy Airbnbs in Cornwall, England, and even big trips abroad for our two brothers and their families. I'm never invited, never even mentioned. It's like I cease to exist. Our parents passed away a few years after the big fight, and their deaths only deepened the chasm between us. This year, their fifth Christmas without them felt particularly raw. I often think about Fiona's daughter, Alara, my niece, who must be 17 or 18 now. Fiona has made sure I've never had a relationship with her, and that stings more than anything. I've always wanted to be a cool aunt, but Fiona put a stop to that long ago. She's the queen of our family, controlling the narrative, deciding who is in and who is out. I'm just tired of being on the outside looking in, tired of her judgment, and tired of her making me feel like I'm still that rebellious teenager who shoplifted a candy bar once. Meanwhile, Fiona, the successful entrepreneur, conveniently forgets her own past, like that time in the 90s when she was actually sent to jail for embezzlement. And then there's our brother Mark, who's been on the sex offender register since the late 90s for possession of child pornography. Yet I'm the one who's considered the problem, the one who deserves to be cut off from the family. It just doesn't make any sense, and it absolutely infuriates me. As Christmas approached, I tried my best to rise above it, just like I always do. I threw myself into my landscape design projects here in Asheville, finding solace in the careful arrangement of plants and stones. I volunteered at a local animal shelter, spending hours with the abandoned cats and dogs, finding a different kind of family in their unconditional affection. I made plans with my friends, went hiking, and tried to convince myself that I was better off away from the drama and toxicity that always seemed to swirl around Fiona. I told myself that her controlling nature and the way she manipulated our brothers wasn't something I needed in my life. But as the festive lights started to twinkle on Grove Arcade and the smell of pine filled the air, the loneliness began to creep in. It's hard to ignore the season of family togetherness when your own family feels so broken. I even tried a subtle approach with my brothers. I sent them cheerful Christmas cards, hoping one of them might mention me to Fiona or even just say, "Hey Brenna, maybe you should come to Cornwall this year." But Mark, my older brother with his own heavy past, is always careful not to rock the boat, too wrapped up in keeping a low profile. He just sent a generic text back. David, my younger brother, tried a little harder, but his effort was weak. He messaged, "Fiona's still pretty mad, Brenna, you know how she gets." It was his way of saying, "Don't bother," effectively siding with Fiona by not pushing back against her iron rule. That just made me feel even more isolated, confirming that no one was going to stand up for me. The sting grew sharper when David, oblivious or perhaps intentionally cruel, started sharing pictures on social media. There were photos of Fiona's daughter, Alara, now a beautiful young woman, laughing brightly, a perfect smile on her face alongside Fiona. They were picture-perfect moments, curated for the world to see, making it seem like they had this wonderful, close relationship, a life I was completely excluded from. Each picture was a fresh stab, reminding me of the niece I had never been allowed to know, the relationship I craved, but Fiona had deliberately denied me. A foolish idea even crossed my mind to fly to England myself, to just show up at that Airbnb in Cornwall uninvited. I actually looked at plane tickets online, imagining the shock on Fiona's face. But the fear of public humiliation, of being turned away at the door, Fiona's sneering face telling me I wasn't welcome, stopped me cold. I just couldn't bring myself to face that rejection. It wouldn't be a reunion, it would be a public spectacle of my own despair. The original problem, my deep-seated resentment and loneliness, only grew bigger and more serious. I wasn't just cut off from my family, I was cut off from a sense of belonging, from justice. I realized that Fiona thrived on this control, on being the one who dictated who was in and who was out. My entire identity, it sometimes felt, had been shaped by this family drama, by her judgment. I felt like the black sheep label had been branded onto me, and no matter what good I did in my life, Fiona would always point to my past mistakes, however minor they seemed compared to hers. Christmas Eve arrived, cold and damp, mirroring the chill in my heart. I was alone in my small house in Asheville, the twinkling lights on my own modest tree doing little to lift my spirits. I had been drinking a little, trying to numb the ache, and had smoked some medical marijuana for my anxiety, which usually helps, but not tonight. I scrolled through old family photos on my phone, tears welling up in my eyes. There was a picture of Fiona and me as kids, probably 7 and 9 years old, laughing arm in arm on a beach. Before the bitterness, before the jealousy, before the control set in. The contrast with my current isolation was unbearable, a sharp pain in my chest. Then a text notification popped up. It was from David, another picture. This one was of the whole family, including Fiona and Alara, all smiling broadly around a beautifully decorated Christmas tree at the Cornwall Airbnb, and B, it was a perfect, curated family image, a tableau of festive cheer that felt designed specifically to rub my face in my exclusion. The accompanying message was a generic "Merry Christmas from everyone." That was it. That was the final straw. The despair that had been bubbling beneath the surface erupted into a burning, absolute need to strike back. I couldn't be there, but I could make my presence known. In that moment, fueled by years of suppressed anger, the dull ache of loneliness, and the raw, gut-wrenching pain of that Christmas Eve picture, a memory flashed in my mind. An old online ad I'd seen years ago, a quirky service for sending prank gifts. I remembered the most outrageous one, a box of elephant dung. It was crude, it was disgusting, but it was perfect. It was the ultimate middle finger to Fiona's pristine, controlled world. My fingers, trembling slightly, flew across the keyboard as I searched for shitexpress.com. I typed in Fiona's address in Scotland, an address I surprisingly still remembered from old letters, a ghost from a past life. I chose the biggest box of elephant shit available, picturing her disgust. Then, for good measure, I selected the biggest, brightest heart sticker they offered. For the accompanying message, I typed out the words that had been simmering in my mind for years. Eat shit and die. It wasn't just about the words, it was about the raw, visceral insult, the ultimate black sheep move, a dirty, unforgettable mark on Fiona's carefully constructed, perfect life. My heart pounded in my chest as I hit the order button, a strange surge of dark satisfaction mixed with a thrill of nervous excitement washing over me. This was it. I had finally struck back. The next few days were a blur of obsessive tracking. I checked the shipping status multiple times a day, watching the package make its way across the Atlantic, then across England, finally heading toward Scotland. The anticipation was intoxicating, a different kind of high. And then finally, a delivery confirmation. A surge of vindication rushed through me. I imagined Fiona's face as she opened it, the confusion, then the shock, the disgust, and the slow, dawning realization that Brenna, the black sheep, had finally struck back in the most undignified, unforgettable way possible. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Fiona. I let it go to voicemail, my heart pounding, a wicked smile playing on my lips. Her message was pure fury, a torrent of curses and threats, her voice cracking with rage and disbelief. It was exactly what I had wanted, confirmation that the message had landed. Fiona's perfect facade, her carefully curated image, had finally cracked. I listened to that voicemail over and over, and each time a true, hearty laugh bubbled up from deep inside me, a laugh I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't a pretty sound maybe, but it was real. I knew Fiona would never truly forget this, and that thought gave me a strange sense of liberation. My new normal wasn't a magically reunited family, but it was a newfound sense of self-agency. I was no longer the passive victim of Fiona's control. I had taken back a piece of my power. I realized that while family is important, I could create my own fulfilling life, and I could choose who was in it. Being the black sheep didn't mean I was bad, it just meant I didn't fit into Fiona's narrow, self-serving definition of what a sister should be. I even blocked Fiona's number shortly after I was done with her toxicity. Months later, as spring turned to summer in Asheville, I received an unexpected message on Instagram. It was from Alara, my niece. My heart leaped into my throat. Her message was short and to the point. She had seen the gift in the message, and while her mother had been absolutely furious, Alara admitted that she had secretly thought it was hilarious. She went on to say that she had been looking me up online for a while, curious about her rebellious aunt. She was turning 18 soon and was planning a gap year before university. She wanted to come visit Asheville, maybe even stay with me for a bit to get away from her controlling mother and see what a normal, non-embezzling relative is like. I was stunned, a joyful, trembling laugh escaping my lips. My outrageous act hadn't just broken Fiona's perfect facade, it had opened a door to the very relationship I thought was lost forever.